Welcome to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast. You idiots, I'm just laughing at these clowns just trying to make faces at me in the background. On this episode of the ET Stand podcast, we are going to work out stop it, you idiots. We're going to try and work out what a dynasty is and if the Cronulla Sharks can ever build one of their own. We're just not content with one premier. These idiots in the background, I'm going to stop them from pulling faces at me. Let's just bring them in. That is Boldo's Tears. Chris Kelly, who would you move?
Where do we start? I'm glad Boldo didn't grow up in Egypt times because that's a terrible looking pyramid. It would have fallen over and collapsed by now. And given that he just Googled the squad and put Matt Ikevalu in the bottom and he hasn't been there since half of last year, our pyramid would have fallen over.
He's still on the page.
The pyramid would have fallen over. You would have been missing a foundation piece and it's fallen over.
Oh, Maloney is still away goes! Away goes James Maloney! They're kicking him home, the Sharks fans! Maloney is there! Healy! It's Healy! Has scored! On his departure day! Mitch Healy gets a try! The crowd have gone absolutely bereft!
In amongst all of that, Latz had an awesome story about how awesome this Finau guy was, and then Boldo concludes it with like, yeah, Finucane, how good is he? And everyone's like,
I don't even know who Finau is. I just assumed that Finau was the same guy as Finucane. Is that a different person? I didn't know that. Who the hell's Finau?
Wow. This is how flawed the tears are. He doesn't even know half the time.
Boldo.
This is where the tears bit comes into it.
I'm listening to the card going, did my stream just like skip 30 seconds or something? Like, no, it was just Boldo just playing along. But anyway.
Peachy, great ball to Campbell. He's away.
Campbell to the 30-metre line. Now, Columbus heading to the corner. Gets it back on the inside. Graham. They're over. Nick Graham has scored. 4 minutes into the game.
Ennis away. Here they are. Pryor. Can he get it there? Yes, he can. Matt Pryor, an unlikely first try scorer for the Sharks.
Interesting enough that the North Bears are getting that desperate. They're talking about having a Pacific Bears team so they can sort of engulf those Pacific nations and sort of get that ball rolling where they think they can sort of, take on the Cook Islands and the Samoans and the Tongas and sort of make it their team. So PNG's to go for me.
I'm pretty convinced after that. All right, Franko, what do you got?
Mate, can I rebuttal that, or am I giving it a different answer?
Go for it. Enough arguments on this podcast. Come on,
you're going to throw out cans and they're going to play out of cans.
Ever. That is the dumbest idea ever.
Townsend now calling the shots with Johnson off. They will go. Gallen, field goal. Paul Gallen, field goal. That is amazing. That is ridiculous. Away. It's back to Smith. Smith gets it away to Cronk. Cronk's got Corabetti with it. Have they got a chance here? Corabetti's put down. The siren sounds. Cronulla have won it. Cronulla have won it. 14-12. You can turn the light out now.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.
Welcome all. It's been a while since I've been in the driver's seat. Not sure if any of you missed me, but I sure missed you. We aren't here to talk up all things rugby league, and we aren't here to talk all things Sharks. But if you drew a Venn diagram, I'm sure we'd be aiming to talk all things inside the parts that overlap. Welcome to the ET Stand, the Sharks Fans Podcast, where we let our talking do the football. We're in all the usual spots: YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, and Fox Sports. Maybe not that last one, but a bunch of others that I can't really recall. But you should be able to find us on your preferred platform. And when you do, don't forget to like and subscribe. I hear that helps, like a lot. So hit those buttons, get in, give us a go. That'd be really appreciated. Now, it is the off season, and I'll be honest, it's hard to get into the international matches with so little involvement from Sharks players. I'm trying. I do like my rugby league, but sometimes at the end of a big season like this, and with not a lot to shout for it, I just can't really get into it. Williams, have you had a nice break? What does an off season look like for you? And are you watching the internationals?
I always love international rugby league, and I think it's absolute travesty that it's just been pigeonholed into the back end of the year. Hopefully a byproduct of expansion and a shortened comp will see us return an international window to mid-year, because we hit our absolute straps back in 2022, I think it was, a couple of years ago, mid-season Pacific Tests, Samoa versus Tonga, all that stuff involving plenty of Sharks players in there. I think even, maybe it was Samoa versus Fiji and New Zealand versus Tonga. I know they were big matches. I remember quite a few of our players, Ronnie, Katoa, all those guys were involved in front of big crowds here and over in New Zealand, and it was great. Now it's kind of blending into kind of not yet cricket season, but it's frustrating that I must admit, I missed most of the Australia-Tonga game the other night, and I missed all of the Fiji-Papua New Guinea game. I did watch the highlights of both. Actually, sorry, I did see the second half of the Australia first Tonga game. So we saw Sione, we saw Fanua Blake. I thought both went all right. I thought Tonga had their opportunities, and if they scored that try while they were man down with a guy in the bin, it would have been a close run thing, but it wasn't to be. But it just, it's I think we all need to break after losing the prelim final. I think this is your and my first show since our post-prelim show. So good to get back to talking Sharks, but I haven't talked or thought much about football. In the meantime, big shout out to Sam and the guys over at Sharkcast with their interview with Alan Fitzgibbon. Great listen. So go give that a listen to. That's I think the only thing Sharks related I've listened to in the last few weeks. Outside of our own episodes, of course. So obviously the interview with Francis last week was great too. So limited Shark stuff, mainly historic stuff, which I love. But here we are to talk about 2025, well, actually 2026 kind of thing and beyond. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, correct. Our fearless leader, Boldo, is over in Europe. I think he's over there taking in the League of Legends Esports World Championships. So hope he's enjoying that. Hope he's picked his favorite team. I know all the Western teams are knocked out, so it's only the Eastern teams that are left. Hopefully that's okay for him, but he's a bandwagon jumper, so he's probably on T1.
I thought he followed some fifth-tier English soccer team called Nottingham Shrub or something. I don't know. There's some team. I think they look like Liverpool, but they're not, and they're nowhere near as good. But anyway, something like that too.
Hard to follow with that guy. Just like his sports. Now, CK is MIA and Lats is hard at work. So you've got Williams and myself. I'd like to say that we're fairly knowledgeable of what we're about to talk about. But you can pop a comment in on the side, and we'll certainly address your comments as we go along. If you're not live and you're watching it later, pop your comment down below, and we will get to it as well. So yeah. Tonight, there is no off-season. Tonight, we prepare for our future with a host of players off contract and more about to come off contract in a couple of weeks. We go through them all. We provide our opinions on the stats, the state of play, and what our options are. at this stage, this is all valid as of 8:30, October the 22nd. So any news that happens after this isn't covered here because, well, as far as we're concerned, it hasn't happened yet. Also worth mentioning, we don't have any inside knowledge, no inner sanctum here, just info we've been able to source, as Sharks fans can, from various sources of media and scuttlebutt amongst fandom. So without further ado, let's dive in.
I'll put in an opening comment, if I may. No to Ben Hunt and no to Ezra Mann is my two bobs there. I don't think we're in the hunt for either, but if somebody comes through, I'm sure that'll. There's been murmurings for both just because of circumstances and the like. It's a big fat no from me for both of them, but carry on.
Yeah, I don't think I would like either of them at any price, let alone their probable asking price, to be fair. All right, let's get this show on the road. So here is the contract status of the knowns. Now, we saw Jack Williams. He was off contract. He has now signed a 3-year deal with the Parramatta Eels. So he's gone. It's sad to see him go. I know he's a bit of a maligned player with his hands, but certainly valued to the club. I think the writing was on the wall when he wasn't signed through the season, where most of every other prop was signed up to some kind of contract. And with AFB coming on board, something had to give. Yes, Dale Finucane wasn't re-signed through his injury retirement, but that was not enough. We've got a lot of young props sort of in the system. And I think this was one of the pieces that had to fall, which was sad for us, but 3-year contract for Jack at Parramatta was good to see.
Yeah, all the best to Jack too. I think he was on some decent coin here, going on to, I suppose, hopefully a decent contract with the Eels and get 3 years of good quality football and game time in the middle there, which he may not have seen if everyone was fit. Hopefully Jesse Colquhoun comes in as a kind of a young for like replacement. And we go from there, hopefully injury-free as well.
That is my expectation as well, mate. Then we've got Moini Hiroti, who was on a development contract this year, just a 1-year contract. And he only got 1 game this season, popped in, did what he needed to do, didn't let anyone down, similar to the season before, where he was arguably best on field in that Souths match. And has been rewarded here with another 1-year contract. It doesn't specify, I don't remember, maybe it did specify, but I don't think it specified if it was a development contract or a top 30, but I suspect it's probably another development contract. He obviously loves the place. I don't know, I assume he doesn't get many offers on the table, but if he's willing to accept it, I think he's certainly a valued squad member to have to call up when needed.
It was spoken in plenty of, I suppose, avenues and areas that he would have been handy in the prelim final. I think he had his own injury concerns himself. There was the doubts around Ramian and Iro. Ramian obviously not playing, Atkinson playing there, but Hiroti, he's done a job and I think would have done a fine job if called upon in the prelim final, as crazy as that sounds and as much as Latz is his biggest fan.
Certainly turned Latz around. I know.
He has the 2 matches.
Latz was not a fan, but he's come around, solid, which is good. And you know what? Not only is he dependable, he fills in a few positions, right? Wing, center, fullback, and he's a goal kicker. So
yeah,
I wouldn't probably rely on him on all of those positions at first drop, but he can fill in those spots. And if needed, it's better to have someone with some experience in those spots than not.
Absolutely.
We then got Kale Iro, who got his opportunity early this season with a few injuries and never let go. He busted tackles, he made meters, he really made the position his own. Certainly plays a different style to Talakai, but in that same vein, hard ball runner, gives us a lot of meters and is one of those ones that really, I think, there were question marks in defence before he got his first opportunity, but defensively got better and better. He was re-signed back in July to a 2-year deal. So he's now with us till 2026.
Huge signing. I suppose obviously he only played one first grade game before this year, and there was lots of talk of when was he going to get his opportunity. He got it earlier in the season, back in round 6 or so, and then took it with both hands and never looked back. It's fantastic to see, especially after his debut against the Bulldogs back in 2022 on the wing. Obviously not a winger, and probably a cautionary tale. We've got was it Chris Vieira and Michael Gabriel waiting in the wings, so to speak, coming through the grades. I'm not sure, and I haven't seen enough of them to be aware of whether they're out and out centres only or whether they can cover wing as well, because we'll move on to that soon. But it's great to see that we wrapped up Hero after a lot of interest elsewhere, and he had to be patient. But not only has he made the position his own, but he's moved Talakai controversially into the pack / onto the bench, and we get more out of Talakai there, I think. Whether that puts the cap out of kilter with the amount of money Talakai's on, I've digressed several times already, but great that we've kept Hero, and he's what I was trying to look up his stats before. Racked up a whole stack of first grade games, and still really only what are we talking? He played 23 matches this year, 6 tries, and looking at, so that'd be 24 matches in his career. So early days for him, but great promise.
And you mentioned that he was patient. He's 24, so that's not old, but it's also not young for an outside back. And there were a couple of people nibbling to see if he would be willing to go try his opportunity at another club. Decided to stick it out for one more season, and it paid dividends for him because he's now a regular first grade with the Cronulla Sharks.
Absolutely. And a crazy backstory that came through during the year too, the fact that he hadn't worn boots until he was let's say 12, 14, whatever year it was.
10,
growing up in the Cook Islands. My only wish or pray or request for Kale is please get some better studs or something, because he always falls over at touch of the Kurt Capewells about him in that regard. But
maybe it's a ploy in helping him break those tackles, right? So
maybe
could be. Then we have a bit of a crowd favourite, especially towards the back end of the season, in Royce Hunt. Was coming off contract in November 1st, but was given permission to shop around. After finding a likely new home, he was given permission to leave early, which was closely followed by an announcement that he'd signed with the West Tigers for 3 years. So he's now with them till 2027. Sort of sad to see him go, but similar to Jack Williams, with Adam Fanua-Blake coming to the club, and as I said, a host of young props sort of plying their trade, ready to have a go. It was one of those things that I think we just probably had surplus in that position.
One of the former impact forwards of the competition midway through the season, when he just was turning games off the bench, and we moved him to the starting pack because we were having those slow starts, and he was playing between 20 and 40 minutes. He's getting on in age now. So it's unfortunate we couldn't keep him, but I think if we're going to let one go or two go, that Jack and Royce, regrettably, they're the ones to go. Both, I suppose, given the fact that, as I said before, Jack, hopefully Colquhoun replaces him, and Royce, because he got a very, I suppose, busy logjam in the front row with Fanua-Blake, Hamlin Willie, who obviously didn't have an off season last year and was not really in the side at all this year. Hopefully there's a good off season this year coming and gets into the side. Toby Rudolph getting some form. I think he was our form prop after the horror game he had against the Bulldogs and was dropped, and came back and really found some quality performances later in the year, and Oregon Kafusi, who we'll talk about later. So good luck to Royce getting towards the end of his career, but big money going to the Tigers. Hopefully they get some success too. I love the fact that his backstory too, he's from Kalgoorlie, which is a bit of a rugby league backwater or not out in WA. So good stuff to Royce there, and thanks for his time as his efforts. He was obviously a crowd favourite during his time. I think the crazy story as well during COVID was that he was driving back from the bubble in Queensland, trying to make it in time for his wife having their first child, and had to pull over the side of the road and listen on the phone or view on the phone as the child was born. So crazy stuff. I will digress into a couple of comments just because one of them, Adam Field, did ask a question, but Ben Turner, thank you for your comment saying good to have the ET stand back. It's good to be back as well. We haven't gone anywhere, just less episodes. he's been hanging out for this one. So thanks, Ben. Adam Field, out of interest, do you know the value of Jack and Royce's contracts? I'm not sure. Do you know?
I don't. Really, the Tigers one sort of been a soft launch. When I was putting the presentation together, our announcement saying that we were letting him walk didn't mention any other clubs. It was, respectful to the club that was signing. And it was like, you know what? I haven't heard the Tigers announce that yet. It's sort of one of those scenarios of the worst kept secret. But sure enough, there was an announcement there on their website. But no dollars or cents spoken about. I imagine it's a case of the fact that he got 3 years was the cherry for him, as opposed to maybe another year with us and then no certainty after that, especially considering people might not remember that he was signed sort of late. He was off contract, and I know people sort of say that he was a bit of a crowd favorite, but there was a moment when we re-signed him that people were like, what? We re-signed him? Really? Why?
Absolutely.
And so that was sort of, we were maybe a week out from round one or something when we re-signed him. So it was a late signing, or considered a late signing for someone who was off contract. And so he really didn't have any certainty, and I think that's why he went to the Tigers.
Hadn't been in great form last year. Obviously found form this year, but you're right. When he was re-signed for, I think it was that 1 year extension, whatever, a lot of people were asking questions. He's getting on to, so 29 years old. This is I know props do mature as they get older, but this you'd say is his last big money contract, unless he somehow found money over in the UK. So all the best to him in 3 years. That's a big signing there. But similar to Jack Williams as well, there was the announcement kind of in the media, and it's from the club that he's leaving, but no confirmation from Parramatta. So when there's those delays, you think, is it going to fall through? But I think both are confirmed. Unfortunately, we don't know the figures. And also Scott McLaren jumped in there with a question or a comment more so saying that I think we jumped the gun resigning BHU, Bradon Mulitalo, with his knee. I always thought about having AFB starting and then Royce is the same size coming on to replace him. Yeah, there was a lot of that sentiment during the year. I know, obviously, the talk that we signed AFB looked like BHU was going the other way. And then AFB actually managed to keep BHU here because he said, I want to play with you again after they were starting props, I think, in the junior Kiwis and room together. So there's a backstory and a background mateship there that hopefully, I think BHU didn't have an off season, so hopefully he can get his knee right. He was looking good admittedly in reserve grade during those final series. I think he's got a bit more to give. Hopefully he's kind of the Royce Hunt equivalent next year, where we go, how's he going? And then he explodes and gets some game time together. He just struggled for consistency.
Yeah, I think he's obviously that knee is not great for him. But with re-signing him, I think it was a scenario where he had an offer on the table, and then we signed AFB, but that offer wasn't withdrawn. It was still there, and he turned around and took the offer and said, I'd like to stay.
It was a kind of close to midnight reversal. I think he'd almost basically accepted verbally the Warriors offer, and then the last minute called the Sharks. I think it was associated as well with his wife or partner wanting to stay in the area, obviously himself as well. So hopefully it's a testament to I think all these guys wanted to stay, but you got to let some go. And as we move on to Sam Healy, that's a bit of bad news there, but you can't keep everyone.
Yeah, so on to the next one. Sam Healy, obviously the son of great legend. He was off contract, doing great things, came through both SG Ball, Matthews Cup, Flag, New South Wales Cup, so right through the grades. Really talented hooker. I had honestly thought he jumped Beryl in terms of pecking order. We saw Beryl get a go this year, but not really in a hooking role, more of an outside, a lock sort of back rower utility. But yeah, I really thought Sam was going to get that chance next, and maybe he saw the fact that Brayley was a bit of an Iron Man and is bulletproof, touch wood. And and took a 3-year deal with the New Zealand Warriors, so he'll be playing there till 2027. I will say, though, performance in lower grades is different to performance in first grade, because I believe that when I watched Healy, he was a clone of Brayley, always running, always eyes up, taking the line on, good little kicks through. And we all know that sort of dried up for a while for Brayley. There's nothing to say that the same would have happened with Healy, but, could have been that he gets his opportunity and he just shovels the ball and is a different player in first grade. So maybe it's not a loss, but certainly was a good talent and the offspring of a great club legend.
Yeah, definitely the son of a great legend in club legend in Mitch. Hopefully, I suppose you're not wishing Blake Brayley to go away. He's the form he showed, especially the back end of the year once he started running the ball, was great. It's like, cool, stay injury free, keep him. You do need a backup hooker though, and it is so hard for, I suppose, these players that are, especially in the hooker role and specialist fullbacks as well. And there's log jams, whereas you look at second rowers, centers, they're dime a dozen. They can make their way through, and if there's two solid or strong ones, then it's no impact on the team. Whereas you look at the Cameron Smith, Harry Grant thing. Hopefully, I suppose us letting Sam go to the Warriors. He's very young, but so is Brayley. Brayley's only 24, so yeah, maybe you can't keep them all frustratingly. And Brayley's an 80-minute player. You can't carry, like back a few years ago when you'd have two hookers. You'd have your standard hooker and your impact. Let's call it your Terrence CC or your Tavita Latu off the bench. So maybe if Brayley, for whatever reason, goes off the boil or doesn't kick on or has an injury, we can call Sam Healy back, kind of Harry Grant loan to the Tigers style. I don't think that's the case, though, unfortunately. But as he said, he's unproven. It's a huge step up from reserve grade to first grade, especially in the hooking position. Hopefully Brayley goes onwards and upwards from here, and we wish Sam all the best. Maybe
it's a Bakuya Townsend style. Get a bit of experience in first grade and then come on back, lad.
Come back and win a comp.
Come back and win a comp, exactly. I'll take that trade for sure. Latino comes through and says, I'm dying to know what Boldo's, what he's on per season. Well, I'll tell you what, Lats.
What are you on? That's the question. What are you on, Franko and Lats? Because I'm on.
Based on the rest of us
enough.
that we're on,
yes.
I think he's got the whole cap.
Yes.
So it's all in his pocket.
Is he a Ben Hunt or is he a Nico Hines or is he
debatable? He hasn't won us a premiership yet, so certainly closest to a Ben Hunt.
Whatever it is, it's too much. It's too much.
Definitely too much. Must have a good agent.
Yeah.
Sonia comes through and says, AFB is coming. The shark goat herd is plentiful. See ya at the GF, lads. So certainly a lot of optimism there from you, Sonia. I'm keen. I'm ready. Is the window open? That's the debate we're going to get to, I suppose, with the player roster and making sure we can try and keep it open for as long as possible. All right. Now, off contract now. So these players are off contract right now. We could wake up tomorrow and see that they've signed with another club. There's nothing stopping them. They have nothing in place for next year as it stands. And their future is unknown. Now, first one there is Billy Burns. He's 25, second rower. Haven't really heard anything in relation to him. He signed with us late in November last year, so it leads me to believe that there isn't really a rush from other clubs' point of view. However, given he doesn't have a home, if something isn't worked out soon, he'll probably have his agent looking, if not already. I felt that he was a good depth player. He came in, did what was asked for him, played a few games, played them well, and was also pretty well entrenched in the Newtown team, captaining the club a few times as well. I would say in the world of managing the cap, probably a good re-sign.
Yeah, if you re-sign him what he's got now, he did a job before interchange appearances for us in first grade and a lot of quality performances in reserve grade. So, yeah, I think if you can keep him on what he's on now and it's not keeping a young gun out of the team, I think he's a good re-sign if we can. I don't know if he attracted much interest. obviously a product of the Penrith junior system, and then played a few years for the Dragons as well. So solid. Never going to set the world on fire, but does the job.
Yeah, definitely. Then we've got Satini Dakamo. He's only 20, winger fullback. Rumours are that we're looking to extend by a year. However, I feel as though others have sort of jumped in front of him. We do have a fair few talented kids in the wing centre combination. And I kind of thought we'd see a bit more from him by now. There were big raps, but he sort of hasn't played outside of himself, sort of played within his shell. Maybe there's something there that we haven't seen, or maybe the promise is still great, and that's where these rumours are coming from. But, a young kid at 20, no real buzz about him, probably wouldn't break the bank to keep him. But like I said, you'd have to weigh that up against some other kids that we'd be looking to hang on to as well.
Yeah, again, as long as he's not holding anyone up and creating that, I suppose, competition for in the wing and fullback ranks coming through the grades, that would be helpful. But you're right, obviously, with the guys like Ison and the like coming through. Has he gone down the pecking order? Maybe. I don't know where he's been playing for Newtown for majority of the year. I think centre and wing, but pardon my ignorance there. I know he played for Greece in the World Cup, so yeah. But if we can keep him, keep him.
Yep. Nihuai Peru, he's 22, half 5'8", was the man of the match in the New South Wales Cup final. Has certainly improved over his time here. He's not knocking the door down, so to speak, in terms of getting that opportunity. I've seen a few games where he's really not performed, but you sort of get that with a young half. The problem he's probably facing though at 22 and not having anyone jumping to try and give him an opportunity means he might be, sort of a late bloomer. Not that that's a bad thing. However, we do have a couple of younger halves coming through sort of as project players, and squeezed between what we've got in first grade and those kids coming through, it might be a bit tough for him to find an opportunity here. Not to say that that's not the case. He's got a great left foot boot on him, but it's in a bit of an awkward spot, I think, for Peru.
Yeah, it is, because we signed him. I remember we signed him a couple of years ago after we'd lost, I think, the grand final of Flegg to the Panthers, and he was the halfback. It was like the prelim or the grand final, one or two, and looked good, looked fast, but hasn't kicked on into the all-age, into the men's game as much as expected, but some good performances, especially in that grand final, being man of the match and the like. So, if he hangs around, I know he played a few of actually both this year and last year, the trials, I believe. So the unfortunate thing about him was he looked like he lacked speed. He had a decent passing and kicking game, but just lacked speed, which a few halves, if I cast my mind back, even the Jersey Flegg current coach, Andrew Delalana, when he played back in 2003, I remember watching him in reserve grade going, this guy should be playing first grade. He's kicking them from everywhere and great in-game kicking, could kick. But unfortunately, was just that a little bit too slow for first grade. So hopefully that's not the case with Peru. Hopefully he can kick on. But he's not that first choice replacement half when Trindall or Hines goes down. We've got Atkinson. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's hard.
Exactly. Not to say that it won't happen, but yeah, I think it's an uphill battle. He has certainly been getting better. Just that, like I said, he's maybe being squeezed from below and above in that scenario. We've then got Jaden Beryl, 29, hooker. He got his first opportunity to play first grade this year, so congratulations to him, and no doubt getting another couple of games. Those same rumours talking about extending his time at the club, which makes more sense now that Healy has been let go to the Warriors, I feel. Before I would have said he's gone, cut him, but with Healy gone, no real other opportunity or options available there in the hooking role. Well liked around the club, Newtown captain for most of the season, and now having had a taste of first grade, it's a no-brainer to offer him an extension, I believe.
At the age of 29 as well, so good on him being a toiler. I believe he's managed by Matt Rogers of all players, correct. And I think he was close to, if not the Queensland Cup Player of the Year. So I know a few other players that have been that realm as well. I think Kurt Capel was one of them. So solid.
We're special for signing a Queensland Cup Player of the Year.
Yeah,
Toby
I think
Rudolph,
Sherry Evans,
Kurt Capewell,
Daly Cherry Evans back in the day. We
Jaden
didn't sign
Graham.
him, but so there's the Q Cup Player of the Year, probably like the New South Wales Cup Player of the Year, is a bit hit and miss. Unfortunately for Beryl, compared to some others, he hasn't kicked on in first grade, but still he's had his opportunities, solid, dependable, and I suppose he's there to replace Brayley if required. Although I think that was that debut game up in Townsville against the Cowboys that Ison played as well. And some of his service at dummy half was a bit not ideal. So I suppose that's one of the things that we take Brayley for granted. He's got, I suppose, competition best service out of dummy half. Beryl doesn't quite provide that, but he provides depth, and that's what you need. You definitely need some kind of capable backup hooker. Yes, you can't have two Cameron Smiths, but you need someone. And I think, Beryl does that job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. His pass is not the greatest, but he's there. He's got experience.
This is one or two isolated incidents, but passes that you don't see Brayley throw, for example.
Correct. We then got young Max Bradbury. He's only 20, prop. He's on a development contract. Unfortunately, he did his ACL in June, which doesn't help matters. But I imagine we hang on to him. You don't go through the effort of developing or trying to see someone in that position and cutting them at 20. He was part of the swap deal with Lockie Miller to Newcastle Knights. So we'd certainly scouted him out and said he's the one we want to make this swap worth it. And while I think there's maybe a few other young props that are performing a little bit better than him, someone has earmarked him for bigger and better things. And like I said, at 20, it's too soon to tell if he's reached those heights. So it'd be silly for us not to continue that relationship and see where it takes him.
20 for a prop is like 12. We signed him at the start of last year. The Knights weren't happy to lose him. And please tell me that his nickname is Stephen. I'm sure most people wouldn't understand that, but especially these days, given that happened in 2002, but it has to be Stephen Bradbury.
It surely should be, but maybe falling over and doing his own ACL is not in line with that.
Yeah, hopefully. But anyway, he's keep him ticking along. Hopefully, he can live up to his expectation post ACL.
Yeah, for sure. Then we've got the off contract now, sorta, kinda. These are the guys that have an option of some description. That if the options are not taken, they are now off contract. Now, Oregon Kafusi, 25, he has a mutual option for next year. There are rumors that he has taken up that option. No idea if that's true. I haven't been able to find anything other than scuttlebutt. However, since it's a mutual option, the Sharks also need to take up their option. I see no reason why they wouldn't. The funny thing here is, though, in taking up the option from both parties, he's just then right back off contract again in November 1st. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next announcement in relation to Kafusi is that he's been re-signed for a multi-year deal.
You'd think so. There was an article from Zero Tackle. That was the only article. That was in mid-September, I think, in the lead up to our game against the Cowboys in week 2, saying that he'd accepted, but there was nothing official that's come out. Hopefully that's the case. I know they were talking to him. He was much better this year than he was last year. If you go back to, I think it was myself and CK, during our review earlier in the year, we were talking highly of him. He's underrated. I don't think he played as well as he possibly could in the finals, unfortunately, but early in the year, we played every match this year. The only forward to do that, or the only prop to do that, except for he was rested against Manly, so final round of the season. He's good games, he's less good games, but he was a mainstay starting the whole way through, where compared to last year, a lot of us were like, who's this guy? Why'd we sign him? Where was his form from the previous year when he played in the grand final against Parramatta and scored a try? He hadn't had an off season. Now he had one. He's good. And at 25, very young for a prop. Hopefully he continues developing, and hopefully we get to keep him, even if it's just for a few more years, to see if he actually lives up to his potential. Especially when you'd have to say that BHU is definitely getting on. I know he's got a 3-year deal in there as well, but he will probably move on at some stage. Rudolph is getting towards late 20s as well. So, you need to, I suppose, future-proof that pack.
Yeah, definitely. 25 is pretty young for prop, as we just mentioned. Bradby, basically a kid at 20. Oregon Kaufusi was playing a grand final at 23, right? So he's certainly playing ahead of his years and has more improvement, I believe. But wow, what a season he had this year! So I think it'd be crazy not to re-sign him. And when I said rumors, I was meaning zero tackle because I consider that a rumor because
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
Good.
Yeah. There's some good stuff on there, but yes, it's not. When you compare it to an official press release from the club to forums, zero tackles somewhere in between.
Yep, correct. Tom Hazelton, also 25, so same age as Kaufusi, about 60 games less than Kaufusi. There is a club option for 2025. Same with Oregon. There are rumors from that same source that the club has taken up the option. Nothing official yet. And just as with Kaufusi, taking the option still has him off contract on November 1st. So that said, as much of a cult figure as Tom is, I'm not sure the club's going to rush into giving him that same multi-year deal announcement that I'm expecting to come from Kaufusi. I do think that it'll be a scenario of taking the option and then seeing how the year plays out.
I think Kaufusi's a starting prop that you can get decent minutes out of, 40 to 50 minutes, let's say. We know Fidel Blake's going to play 60 minutes, whereas Hazelton's very much an impact player off the bench. I know we had him starting for a while there, but that also coincided with a bit of his lull in that he was clearly looking tired. He wasn't getting the same performances, was struggling with lateral movement, struggling with this, just seemed tired because he just isn't used to playing week in, week out NRL, which is very tough, and he's mid-20s. Obviously, he scored 1,000 tries. What was the final tally? It was high. It was a lot more than the 3 I predicted and the 3 he'd scored in previous years. So he is, for a big guy, he's got skill, he's got a step, he's got footwork, but also too, he has to be managed. He's got limited minutes. He's an impact player. He's a bench player, and he'll be, I suppose, managed and signed accordingly.
Yeah, agreed. Can find the try line, which is really good. Now, I guess it's worth mentioning, this is in the eye of the beholder whether this is good news or bad news, but we talk about rumors, we talk about, what we can dig up, what we can find. The last few years, since Tom Mooney came back, the club's been very tight-lipped on signings, on announcements, waiting until the ink is dried on the contract before letting anyone know. Very frustrating as fans who really want to know, really want to find out the future of their favorite player or what the club is doing, where the club is moving. But you know what? It's probably a good thing. It means that we're keeping our cards close to our chest. And so while some of these players, you would think you would have heard something by now, for all we know, there's already a contract signed, just waiting for a cooling off period, and we'll hear any day on some of these players. Maybe not, but that's the beauty of being a tight ship. I'd rather that than innuendos and bits and pieces flying everywhere, such as the Tigers or Parramatta or whatnot. Certainly a much stronger position to be in, I feel.
Yeah, fingers crossed with Darren Mooney doing the wheeling and dealing, that is the case, especially after I think he was part of the crew that had the infamous 2011 re-sign / not re-sign on Kate Snowden.
Mm-hmm.
The media was there. They were about to announce it, and he got a call from Nathan Tinkler at seconds before interview, and that's enough to burn anyone, including the fans. So I'd much rather this. You just think of how we signed Nico. It was a little bit of hearsay that it happened. How we signed Finucane, it just kind of came out. Same too with Fidel Blake last year. It was all about the Tigers, the Dragons, and the Bulldogs, and then suddenly out of nowhere, the Sharks. Oh, what signed? What's happening? Wow, that was the first
deal.
Yeah, yes. So hopefully similar is happening. behind closed
Yep.
doors.
Exactly. SJD has kicked in with a message saying, how likely is it that BHU will regain his form next year?
I think likely. I think there's a chance there, given that given the lack of off season and the impact of injury last year, and there must have been, it seemed to, what they were saying, knee soreness. The fact that the injury seemed to be constantly being managed and he wasn't playing week to week. He seemed to be getting minutes in reserve grade, trying to get some kind of continuity there, and then he'd be out for another week. And you compare that to Toby Rudolph with the toe injury he had, which he picked up early season 2023 against the Warriors, had a long period out, came back, couldn't train, always looked gassed. I mean, that's classic Toby, but just wasn't getting any kind of any ability to train properly. Missed the entire off season, was pretty diabolical. It got to all came to a head against the Bulldogs. Then suddenly things started clicking into gear for him. So I think both of them, especially BHU, hopefully if they stay injury free, can bounce back and play a big part in 25.
Yeah, some of these sorts of injuries are very hard to get right while the season is in full swing. So hopefully a bit of rest, bit of treatment, and then an off season under his belt will come in firing. That would be the way we would like to see. We know he's committed. We know he's trying his best. So he's certainly going to give himself every opportunity to do so.
Big thing, I know we haven't done a full season review yet, but looking at 2024, so we lost Finucane earlier in the year, and then we basically didn't have BHU. So we had two highly played props not playing, and we had a whole stack of young guys or lesser known players step up and still make it to a prelim final. I think we definitely it's one place we do need a lot of depth. You can't throw your eggs in the AFB basket. He will miss weeks. He will have injuries. He will probably have suspensions as well. And that's where we fell over in 2022 and 2023, especially 22. As I said before, Royce Hunt and BHU were killing everyone in August, and then they were broken come September. You need that depth there to be able to perform. Hopefully next year we go better, given that we've got, I suppose we're adding to our forward pack. Got a few more players that have come along. Hopefully, Colquhoun, I keep saying, hopefully he stays injury free, but hopefully we have that depth in the front row to take us that next step.
Yeah. Now, Boldo's graced us with his presence, saying, hello from Nottingham, stealing from the rich to try and pay these poor hosts. Enjoying this show. Every Sharks player is good if we get them at the right price. Well, I guess he's certainly got us at the right price. We might have to test the open market, Williams.
Yeah, I'm not rushing off to any Nottingham Forest podcast, that's for sure. But yeah, we'll see. Brilliant.
All right. Now, November 1st, a whole slew of players come off contract. Here are the outside backs that come off contract. There's a few of them. Some big names as well. Starting off with Ronaldo Mulitalo, 24 on the wing. He has come out publicly stating that he'll test his value with the open market. It's an interesting development considering he was leading the way in campaigning for the back five to take pay cuts in order to keep the team together last go around. It's not a bad thing that he's opting to test his worth. Life priorities change, not to mention that he isn't short of devoting time and attention to those in need. He's a very popular figure. We'll probably see a bump here in pay. And it is worth mentioning that seeing what's on offer by testing yourself on market doesn't exactly mean you want to leave. It's just that if you feel you're in a strong bargaining position, this can give you a few more chips in your favor at the table. So
I think it's an interesting one. So I think all credit to all players, really. They've got such a short career, what they put their body through. Here's a little tangent. I don't know if anyone watched Plum last night with Brendan Cowell, but interesting viewing and looks at the toll. Yes, obviously fictional, but the toll these guys go through every week. They give up all their weekends and basically the better part of their younger prime years to play this game, and they get repaid a lot of the time handsomely at the top of the peak of their powers. Wingers' values have gone through the roof lately, where previously they were just the guys that hung around footballers. And Ronaldo grew, well, yes, he was born in New Zealand, American Samoan heritage, but spent a lot of time in his youth in Queensland, and he would like to go back there, I think is what he said too. He'd like to go back there eventually. So if a team north of the border, probably in the Brisbane area, let's say a Dolphins or a Titans offered him big money, he'd probably look at it. This is just a lateral thought that I had just then, is he might, as you said, test his market, stay with the club. Let's say we win somehow. If we win in the next year or two and that scratches that itch, he might go, cool, I now know my value. I'm out. See ya. I've scratched that itch with the team and carry on. So I think good luck to him, whichever way he goes. We'd all love him to stay because his try scoring rate is astronomical. And if anyone saw his debut in 2019 with him unfortunately dropping those balls against Brisbane, he'd be the last guy you'd think that would be on track to beat ET's record. But here he is. Hopefully he stays and does that, but at the right price. I'll agree with Boldo there, at the right price. You don't want to throw too much into it, given that he has had his injury troubles in the past. And I think, obviously, we've got Stone Street and potentially other wingers too that could take his place and do a similar job. He's a lot of energy around the team. He has a huge impact, and I think an underrated impact. Boldo sees him very high. I know you do too. But obviously, too, if he's getting silly money offers from elsewhere, they're like, thank you, Ronaldo. Good luck. Go score 100 tries. Unfortunately, not for the same club, unfortunately. So it doesn't really count. But anyway, good luck.
Yeah, agreed. Obviously, fan favourite there. Even a media personality favourite. Interviews very well. So certainly highly regarded and has his face in all the right places. So I'm sure there'll be a few people out there that'll be willing to see what it would take to get him to join their club. Bradon Trindall next. Obviously, a very high valued target, 25 in the half of 5/8 role. He's another one who has come out and publicly stated that he wants to test his value post-November. And after his performance towards the end of the season and the way the media jumped all over it, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Absolutely. Given that, so I've just heard from Chris Kelly, he's working tonight, so that's why he's not joining us. We thought that'd be the case, but yeah, Bludger, I'll provide that feedback through. But Trindall, another interview I saw just a few days ago, it was purely text version, so just quotes on a page, but he was saying how he wanted to repay the club, but obviously to test his value again. Standout game in week 2 of the finals. Either side of that, I wouldn't argue that he was demanding Nico Hines quality, despite all the hoopla from the media. Come a long way with the club, and hopefully he stays with us. I think he's going to repay us, and I think that we're looking to manage the cap in order to, I suppose, pay him appropriately in order to keep him and Hines as our halves.
Yeah, I think so. There is a bit of a wrinkle potentially in that plan. Also off contract, Daniel Atkinson, 23.
Yeah.
I'll list him as a utility.
He's
kind of can play fullback, has been on the wing, has been in centre, can play half, 5/8. He is the Connor Tracy 2.0 in this scenario. Proved his worth this season, played a lot of games. Be interesting to see if we have plans for him on the bench or as a backup, and more importantly, if he's willing to accept either of those roles. If Bradon prices himself out, he's certainly a ready-made replacement.
He is, and that's where it's hard with so many moving parts and moving deck chairs and the like. But I think a lot of people compare Daniel Atkinson to Connor Tracy, and I can see those comparisons. But Connor Tracy, obviously, he's fullback of the Bulldogs now. He started his first grade career as a 5'8", and I believe he played for South there back a few years ago, then came back to us, was a half, and then moved out to the backs. I think Atkinson's kind of the reverse, was kind of a fullback and has moved into the halves. Atkinson, he played a bit of fullback for Newtown, and I'd have to shout out the Fins Up guys. They said I think Dan there was saying that he wasn't much chop there, but it's hard to tell in reserve grade when players are kind of playing within themselves. They're just doing what they need to do to get the runs on the board and then go back to first grade, where he came in and obviously had that a few solid performances in Trindall's absence with Hines running the show. And it's interesting, I watched some highlights a little while ago. I think it was in the lead up to the knocking a ball over there. In the lead up to the Panthers game, looking at what Hines could do. And those games like kind of against the Raiders, earlier in the season, and against the Roosters as well, with Atkinson pairing in the halves. Atkinson was very much a second fiddle and just a ball distributor and a bit of a kind of pass it on to Nico, or a bit of a runner, but not really a playmaker. And it was really, he came into his own in that game against the Storm. But still a clutch player, can kick a conversion from the sideline under pressure, can kick a field goal. It's unbelievable. But also too, I think it was a game against the Gold Coast and a game against the Cowboys. Looked a bit missing there because he's not a full-time career halfback, at least to the best of my knowledge, pardon my ignorance, but it's difficult. I could see how he could be tempting to a Tigers or someone else, which, by the way, they've got a pretty good halves pairing, but a smaller team going, hey, let's get Atkinson as our half, throw him heaps of money and off we go. And if I was Daniel Atkinson, I'd absolutely take that money, but I don't think he's that kind of player, doesn't have that kind of quality. He's a great backup, but I think that's all he is, kind of thing. That's all he's proven, and that's all he'll continue to be. He may develop, he may be Trindall's replacement and may go great, but also too, I don't think he's the guy, and don't take this the wrong way, Daniel Atkinson, he's not a star player you can build a team around. He might turn into that, but at this point in time, I don't think he is, and I don't think he will.
There were certainly suggestions of a halves pairing with Trindall and Atkinson, with Hines maybe moving to fullback. I think people should push those thoughts out of their head. That's just scuttlebutt from the press. There's no way that will happen.
Hines' body isn't up to that now in regards to his speed, agility, the volume of meters he'd have to cover, all those things. Hines he's a half, and that is that moving forward. Ideally with Trindall, ideally we keep Atkinson and keep him as the backup, but it'd be hard. If a team comes knocking, I think Daniel will go and we'll wish him all the best.
Yeah. Stephen Hay kicks in here and he says, Trindall and Nickera should be priority, end of story. Shouldn't be letting them go to November 1st. We will get to Nickera, Steve. I'm certainly in agreement there. However, we don't really have an option with Trindall. He has come out publicly and said he's going to wait till November 1st and see what offers come his way before negotiating. So that's his choice. He is allowed to do so. Don't take it as a slight on the club. It's just a way of testing what you feel you're worth if you think that the club is not giving you the money that you feel you're up for. And that's not to say that the club won't be there to give him that money in the end either.
It's not just that, it's the salary cap, right? It's the salary cap that the club can only do what it can with the money it's got. These players have finite careers. They have to look after that. Yes, I suppose if you're in those top tax brackets, you're looking at paying 50% tax. So you kind of, hopefully they're making educated decisions there and go, actually, this team, I'm happy I'll forego a little bit of money so as not to go to a insert basket case club here. But money talks, and these guys, some of them will walk, unfortunately, and that's just how it is.
Yep, exactly. Next, we've got Sam Stonestreet, certainly a favourite of the ET Stand audience. 22 on the wing. Similar to Atkinson, if Mulitalo prices himself out, he's proven to be a ready-made replacement. If Mulitalo does stay, is he ready to bide his time the way Iro did? For the record, Sione Katoa is signed until 2026.
I think he is, and I think that both Ronaldo and Sione have had enough injury problems, and I think this is probably a going forward thing, similar to you need a quality backup hooker. I think Sam has shown that he's happy to bide his time. He's 22. I think he'll get more and more game time as the years go on. Also, too, if you look at Sione's getting on now, he made his debut in 2018. I think he's doing really well. I think he had his best season yet for us this year. But still, if they have a bad injury or lose a bit of speed or lose their effectiveness as a winger, he's ready to come straight in. So I think Sam will hang around and hopefully we work a deal there with him. He's a local supporter since birth.
Junior.
So, yeah.
A local junior made his debut this year, 5 appearances and scored 8 tries. So can convert.
Big
which
return.
Is pretty
Could have
pretty nice.
Could have had more as well. He could have had more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Could have had a fair few more, actually. One of the number one fangirls here in Williams 2.0 says the statue is on the way. Goat Street will not leave. You know what? I hope he doesn't. I hope that we know he loves the club. As I said, local junior, grew up loving the Sharks. So you're right, Williams. There is opportunity for him to get a bag of games each year while Mulitalo and Katoa have their injury concerns, which is good that he will ease into grade, I suppose.
You look at Sione, did similar. He made his debut in 2018, had some injury issues, and really didn't bed down a spot until kind of 2020. And he bided his time there. Same as Ronaldo, he was in and out the side. It's kind of natural for these outside backs to have that kind of progression.
Now, the next three are all favoured in the fullback position, which could potentially make things a little bit awkward for someone. First up is Cade Dykes, 22, fullback, and out of the three of them, I would say is probably the closest to a utility option. Has had a bad run of injuries the past couple of years, but is probably, like I said, in that kind of Tracy Atkinson role if needed. Can play, fullback, centre, in the halves. Played a few games in each of those positions in the lower grades. He was hunted pretty hard at one point by both Gould and Bennett. Decided to stay. Obviously, third generation Sharky. So big raps on him. Just injuries holding him back. If he can be healthy off season, does he take Atkinson's role moving forward?
Potentially. Hopefully. So Atkinson came from nowhere. Hopefully if Atkinson moves on, all the best to him. Dykes can get some injury-free time, get some time with Newtown, get some time with first grade, and develop from there. 22 is still young, but it is starting to be a bit of a concern there. Even more so compared to, I suppose, his old man. Adam had a lot of injury concerns through his career. And you look at Adam Dykes came in at a time where we had Mitch Healy and Paul Green in the halves. So 3 didn't go into 2. And looking at some of the old games, so did this year, looking at 96, 97, Adam Dykes was coming off the bench playing a lot of hooker. That was back in the old unlimited interchange period and then lots of interchange periods. So Cade doesn't have that luxury, but hopefully he's able to get some games together. Versatile. He's only really played first grade 2022 at fullback for us. So I'm not sure how it'd go in the halves there. I think it was experimental side back at the start of 2022 when Fitzy first came in. I remember a game at Combank where we got pumped by Penrith. And I think Cade even played a little bit of lock in there bizarrely. And I remember looking at him going, gee, he's a lot bigger than his old man. And then obviously we saw his elusive speed and the like, scoring a try against the Tigers in 2022. So hopefully he gets some gets good off season. The fortuitous thing is when he did his ACL, it was kind of earlier in the season last year. So I hope he gets a full off season this year and we go from there. And he's local junior, similar to Sam Stone Street, hopefully an easier guy to keep. Just hopefully those injuries go away so we can get our best use out of him.
Absolutely. Now, I missed this one. I apologise, Richard. He comes in and he says, I think Ronaldo will leave because we could re-sign Sam Stone Street for a lot less. And I think other clubs will be prepared to pay Ronaldo more than we are. Yeah, it's certainly an option, Richard. Like we said, Stone Street is a ready-made replacement. But, geez, Mulitalo is pretty popular around the club. It'd be hard to turn him down if the offers are somewhere around what we're willing to pay. Then we've got Liam Eisen, 20, just a young whippersnapper, the youngest of the group. Fullback, performed well in Dykes' absence for Newtown, even while he's still eligible for flag next season. Got his debut match. Didn't absolutely dominate or anything crazy like that, but he was there. He didn't look out of place. I think he dropped 1 or 2 high ones, but that could be attributed to nerves.
Had a try assist.
A try assist
for Ronaldo.
Yep, you're right. Certainly looked like a good prospect.
He did look likely. He looked dangerous. And I suppose before we move into Will Kennedy, I know that Boldo and a few others have been quite critical of Will and that his, I suppose, lack of, potency in attack. Liam appeared to have a bit more than that. Will's obviously Mr. Dependable. Liam a bit more. I suppose there was talk of him being a Dylan Edwards clone. I can't quite see that, but maybe I'm just a poor judge or not a good looker, I suppose, close follower of football. But I'd be loving it if he was. I personally can't see it at the moment. But Liam had a bit, watching his highlights package from his reserve grade season for Newtown, plenty of great tries there. His involvement in one of the Stone Street tries in the grand final was impressive as well. Hopefully he can stick around. We signed him from the Penrith system. He seems like he was a long time Sharks fan as a kid, maybe. So hopefully we're tapping into these kind of connections, and hopefully a bit of goodwill allows us to keep these guys not on the cheap. You want to reward these guys, but for a reasonable cost to help us get to that end goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's more of a trailing the ball type fullback, which I think is one of the knocks against Kennedy, where Kennedy is your link man. But as you said, with that try assist that he got, showed that he can also play that link man role, which means he's got a pretty good future ahead of him.
It's interesting that Kennedy cops that knock because he scored an awful lot of tries in 2021 and early 2022, trailing up on the inside and backing up Ronaldo and scoring tries, whether it was from a grubber or a pass back on the inside, and even a few through the middle of the ruck as well. But he doesn't have that elusive speed that, let's say, Billy Slater's do. So it's easy to knock him and go, he doesn't have that. But yeah, Austin has a bit more of that trailing ability, which, if we change our attack, it'd be good. Kennedy, we're moving on to him, I suppose, in a sec.
We are.
Provide a lot for the slingshot move. And there was that criticism. We didn't have him, and we had Kate Dykes that our attack lost so much because of that. So I think you can't win with these Sharks fans. They're always wanting everything, and I understand I'm the same. But I think it's an exciting time in that if Will's provided some for us, but at a reasonable price. Hopefully, if he's then, I suppose, ousted out by one of these other guys, it's at a reasonable price. And then if they explode into being the next superstar and we have to move someone else along in a year or two to upgrade them because they are indeed the next Dylan Edwards, then we're in a great spot, aren't we?
Yeah, love him or hate him. I think that slingshot move relied a lot on Matt Moylan and his combination with Kennedy. With Moylan gone, I think that play that everyone was so used to seeing come off more often than not has sort of disappeared. There's a little bit of other clubs working it out as well, of course, but unfortunately it doesn't have the same potency as it once did. Yes, so Will Kennedy, 27, fullback, has been a steady improver the last few years, proving doubters wrong. I think there was a lot of people that sort of wanted him gone before giving him a chance. There are question marks on if he's reached his ceiling or if he's got any more improvement left in him. I think this is a scenario where there are plenty of young, talented kids coming up through in the fullback position across the league, and that decision probably isn't needed too urgently. I almost wonder if the club would be thinking about a 1-year extension. Not sure if that shows enough respect though to Kennedy. Maybe they just don't rush into anything, and it's one of those scenarios where mid-season we hear about signing for Will and not something pre-kickoff, pre-round week 1.
It's a hard one. He's I suppose similar to Ronaldo. If you remember Will Kennedy's debut against the Panthers at home in 2019, had a bit of a shocker, and then he's come a long way since then. But has he peaked? Maybe. Is he in the top 8 of fullbacks in the competition? No. Is he going to win a comp with it? Are you going to win a comp with him? Maybe not. But we've lost a lot when he's been injured as well. So hopefully, you're right. Maybe a 1 or 2 year extension, something that's reasonable, because we're not going to turn around and sign one of the best fullbacks in the comp. I think if we're going to have to produce from within. We've got a few good, I suppose, opportunities here with these young guys, but I think Will needs to hang around yet, because if let's say we do away with Will, for example, I don't think Ison or Dykes, even if they are setting the world on fire, have the ability injury-wise or physicality-wise to last a whole season as well. You look at Liam Ison's only 20, 21, 22, he's still developing. These guys get injured, it's hard. If you look at Ronaldo and Sione in their first few years, they were in and out of the side constantly. So you need to bring these guys along.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I did mention there's a lot of young fullback talent coming through that everyone is excited about, not at the Sharks, in the league in general, but at the other end of the spectrum, we've got the Eels willing to let Gutherson talk. They're not looking at him as a priority to re-sign. I know he's a little bit older than Kennedy, but only by a couple of years. He's an Origin player, club captain. We wait and see what interest is there for Gutherson, because you imagine if there's not much interest for Gutherson, maybe there's going to be even less interest for Kennedy.
Yeah, might be a case of one or both of them going overseas to the UK. You're right, it's gone there. The halves less so, but I was listening to a Matthew Johns interview, I suppose, on SEN, and he was saying that there's been a real, I suppose, lack of fullbacks and so both ball runners and ball players since the mod league rules. I can't remember the exact scenario, but the amount of players that can touch the ball in that kind of under 8s to under 12s, so under 14s kind of period, and there was a lack of ball players because they got only one player with a bib could pass the ball or run the ball, for example, or take the line on. Sorry, that has since been modified again in the last few years, and we're starting to see playmakers and ball playing or elusive fullbacks come through as well. So we're seeing the elusive fullbacks come through. Matthew Johns was saying that he reckons we're in the process of seeing a lot more ball playing and ball running halves come through as well, which will see you hopefully kind of go back to that classic era of kind of 90s, early 2000s. Joey Johns was king, but you had so many other quality halfbacks getting around where you look around at the current comp and go, how many halfbacks are getting around that you're going to win the comp with? Probably only a handful. So, hopefully that indicator of Gutherson being moved on and not getting much interest is a good thing for the competition. It's an indicator of how much depth there is. Hopefully for Will, if he's moved on, that he gets a good contract overseas or somewhere else in the comp.
Yeah, and I think to your point earlier, mate, I would like to see Kennedy retained.
Yeah.
I think that even if he is not the future of the Sharks, so to speak, I do think he has a place and he's a very important cog for us. He performs really well. Yeah. And a couple of years while some of these kids come through is not out of the question.
He'd have an awful lot of knowledge to give as well, given how, I suppose, he's very much seems like a hard worker, a guy that has come a long way with his career compared to how he started, how he came into grade, all that stuff. He'd have an awful lot of knowledge to give these guys positionally and looking after their body in first grade and the like. So
certainly takes the criticism on his game, I think, to heart and works on it, because each year we've seen him come out of a preseason correcting the wrongs of the previous year. You know, there was knocks on his
defense,
try assists. He's no good. Came out with the slingshot year, perfect, really good. Then there was knocks on his positional. Came back, was able to do that really well. Then there was knocks on his defense. This year he's come out defending, he's the last line of defense. You're going to let tries through, but certainly playing a lot stronger in defense than what he has previously. So he's working on his game. He's getting better each season.
Played alongside Ben Barber in the was it Curie knockout recently as well. Bizarrely, but anyway.
SJD has come in with a bit of a side topic and says, which young gun are you most excited about and why is it Gabriel? What have you got for me, Williams?
I've seen brief highlights from this Michael Gabriel guy who we got in the swap deal with Connor Tracy, and I know a lot of Bulldogs fans and the Bulldogs club themselves were not happy with losing him. Yes, very exciting. Still playing only flag, I think. I'm not sure. He may have played only a handful of reserve grade games if he did play in New South Wales Cup. Long way to go. Very young, but very exciting. I think, but we got Rami and Iro in the centres. So does he go on the wing? Can he play fullback? Is he another option there? I suppose it'll be a watch this space over the next few years, but exciting.
Yeah, still young. Plenty of time yet before I think he pressures those guys. Good try scorer, strong. I think think he was kind of outplayed a little bit in the grand final, but yeah, he's been phenomenal and a great get. Good scouting from the team to get him to the club. He's probably not my young gun that I am most excited about. I think I mentioned it on one of my last pods that I was on. My young gun to watch out is Felix Fertilli. I think he looks really good. Young prop, can find the try line, works hard. He's the one to watch for me. I would be locking him up if given the opportunity.
Good stuff.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Next, the forwards. These guys come off contract on November 1st, and there is certainly some talking with these guys. We've got Cameron McInnes, 30, lock. He's our captain and arguably the heart of the club. Probably going a long way to driving standards at the club, especially now with Finucane retired. I can't see him going anywhere. I'm sure he wants to stay, and I'm sure we want him to stay. There's probably no rush here, and it'll get sorted when it gets sorted.
Give you one. I know that Baldo and a few others would probably be happy for him to depart to England. And I'd probably say from a pure performance level, I wouldn't stand his way. I know he'd probably want to stay, though. The family's set up in the area and the like. You need leadership, and I think this team, being so young, lacked a bit of that. Would have been really handy having a hard head like Gal on this side, and it would have been interesting to see how they went if they did have a Gal or a Luke Lewis or someone in the side just to steady the ship a bit. Cam, is he that guy? Hopefully, maybe. I think he'll hang around probably a year or two extension. His body's been absolutely battered, though. So interesting. And then is he looking at too, is Cam holding anyone up? Obviously, you got Colquhoun coming through. Do you play what's it called? Talakai from lock or other players from lock? You got a lot of middles there. Do you have a ball playing lock? Do you have a kind of a prop at lock? It depends which model the team sees themselves using going forward.
Well, we did speak about Peru being maybe a little bit slow. Left field suggestion, does he put on a little bit of bulk and come in as a ball playing lock? Would bring a lot of options there in attack. Probably crazy, just speaking out of turn. He's there.
Quite short. Stranger things have happened.
He's quite short, but his brother plays in the back row, so probably not crazy to think.
Plays in the back row for Canberra, does he?
And he does, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think with McInnes, he certainly tries hard. He certainly would be lifting those standards. The knock that might come from him as a leader is maybe that he comes from a bit of a losing background. Some of those other leaders you spoke about with, Lewis and Maloney, McInnes. They're all winners. They all came from winning clubs, winning plenty of games.
And from game-changing positions too. I think this is not a knock on Cameron. He's got absolutely every ounce of potential out of his body and more. And you see James Graham, hear him laud him all the time. And Cameron McInnes said to James Graham without the Dragons that McInnes said this is his life's work. This is the reason why he's here. He's everything. But you look at those other guys like your Ennis, your Gallen, your Maloney. I wouldn't say Maloney's a leader, but he was a game breaker, that's for sure. But they were leaders that could also be game breakers. I'm not sure if McInnes is that much of a game breaker. No shade thrown at him or not his fault. It's not his role. But yeah, and also he's very much a leader by doing as well. I did love his responses in the press conference after loss to Penrith when they asked, hey, who's going to win the grand final next year? And he basically responded with, I couldn't, in English and in more G-rated terms, and I couldn't give a flying F, but that's basically what he said, which was great. His heart is in the right place. Whether he fits into the plan going forward, I think Fitzy will make a spot for him and keep him. Whether it's for the betterment of the team, it's hard. It's really hard. I think he brings leadership, but I think we'd probably do better on the field without him, as harsh as that sounds.
That's very harsh. I will
I'll
leave that one.
Pure performance perspective, being devil's advocate here, but I think that we've got guys coming through that If McInnes got a big money contract overseas, it'd probably be in everyone's best interest to move on. But who's our leader? I don't know. I don't have an answer. So I've created another problem there.
Yeah, I think he's. Oh, geez, this is treading dangerous ground here, Williams. I think he's very important to the club at this stage. I think he needs to be in and kept around the club. But you're right. There are some scenarios where, especially this year when we had the forward bench rotation when he was off the field, we didn't seem to miss a beat. But he does have that engine, and plugging 60 odd minutes for 26 rounds is a big ask, and he puts his body on the line. He does it all for the club. So it'd be hard to say that we would improve without him. I'm not sure that's entirely true, but certainly worth a debate and an argument. I would also say Maloney was the guy that gave that impassionate speech in the grand final.
Oh, true. You're right.
Melbourne Storm scored. So.
He was the guy for the big moments. I wouldn't say that you drive your training and performance standards around him, but in the big moments when you need someone to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and he did exactly that. So.
All right. Next, we've got Tuku Tapua, young 22-year-old prop. There has been rumours that we've already started talks with him in trying to retain him, which is a good sign. He has a lot of potential, still young for a prop. Not many minutes in first grade, but he's been doing some good minutes for Newtown in New South Wales Cup. So certainly been trying to improve his workloads there. I think he very quickly became a fan favourite with the limited opportunities he got.
Very much so. And I think that, obviously he's playing short minutes. He's playing big minutes for Newtown. Hopefully he can convert that into first grade. So much potential. He's still young. The Roosters were unhappy to lose him. I think that was one of the only times they've been squeezed by the salary cap, maybe. But good to see that we're looking to set him up long term, because I think he's got so much potential. And my 4-year-old, I think his neck's still craning, as we saw in one of the games, and he got a photo with him. He's like, "How tall are you?" So good. Big Tukes is a legend.
Brilliant. That's very good. Hopefully he sticks around for a long time. We've got then Teague Wilton, 25, second row. No frills player who tends to build into a season. If he gets an uninterrupted run of games, it really shows. We saw that season where he sort of started, and then Wade Graham came in, and then they swapped back because of an injury, and he wasn't the same player as what he was when he'd had that run of games. So, really needs to string those games together and gets better and better as the season progresses. And while I believe he is a key component of our team, and I'm sure the club will want to keep him, you do have Talakai as a ready-made replacement, still signed until 2026. And I bet we'd be wanting to prioritize the guy we're going to be talking about next over Wilton.
So Britton Nickera, spoiler alert for the guys listening on the audio version. This is the guy immediately to the right of Teague on our screen. Teague, I think it's a T-E-I-G rather than T-I-E-G. But anyway, we don't mind on the spelling there. Teague Wilton. Teague going into this year was very much under a cloud of can he defend, because he was part of that left edge defence with Moylan and I suppose Trindall at times and the like. There was like, there's big trouble, big problems there. Are we okay? And Talakai as well. But it was proven that it was a cohesiveness issue with Moylan and others. And Teague came out quite fine here. Captain us for one game against the Eels. He's been a junior captain. We played him off the bench for a little while when he came back from injury, and I'm sure I'm a fan of that. I think he's either an 80-minute second rower or nothing at all. He attracted a lot of attention from Souths 2 years ago. Talk of him linking with his uncle John Morris. Will be interesting to see what links come here. I think we'll probably look to sign him. They're touting him as a future captain. I must admit, though, I think that obviously Britton is the higher priority. And I suppose segueing to there, if you're going to keep one or the other, Britton it is. And I suppose looking at it, how much depth have we got in the second row? You've got T, you've got Britton, You've got Talakai, and then are we
Yep.
starting to depth in like kind of maybe
You
Colquhoun?
mentioned earlier Colquhoun.
And then you're kind of starting to go into your Billy Burns and the like. So I think it's vital unless we've got someone else coming through, which I don't think we do. And I don't think we're going to fashion Jesse Ramian or Kale Ero anytime soon into a second rower. I think you got to keep Teague.
Absolutely should be keeping Teague. But as I said, I think he's one of those players that is probably his role is more determined by those around him because, like I said, we've got Talakai that could step into that role, and we've got to try and keep Nikora. There also, you discussed McInnes, if he is a priority signing. I think you can't lose both of them, certainly. So
I think if you lose McInnes, you have to keep Wilton. I think if you're looking at the fact that McInnes is 30, and I'm not sure if his body's going to break down like Finucane, he's put it through an absolute battering. And Wilton's only 24, 25.
25.
Towards, keeping Wilton. Nikora, I suppose, a few years ago, if we slide onto him, he was one of the only players ever to have contract conjecture and then suddenly the second he put pen to paper with the Sharks. And I remember there was some people, myself included, going, he hasn't been in form since kind of 2019. Do you let him go to the Tigers? Suddenly he stayed with us and then boom, he's just, once that was settled, his form exploded and he hasn't looked back since. So, get pen to paper.
Spoilers with him. Reading my notes.
I've stolen all your content there.
No, all good. Great minds. So, segueing into Britton Nikora, 26 second row. Would I be right in calling him the jewel in the crown or the most important signing we're going to be discussing tonight? He's just immense. He's just the guy. You said it. There were some hesitations from the fandom in signing him the last go around, and it probably wasn't unfounded. But as you said, once he put pen to paper, it was like a weight was lifted off his shoulder, and he just performed. And he's gotten better and better. So he's certainly one, as Stephen Hay mentioned earlier, that I would hope to hear something in this space soon, especially before November 1st rolls around.
I think it's funny, back in 2022, Fitzgibbon, I think it was interviewed, said that Britton does so many things you don't notice. And I do remember seeing a lot of his work off the ball, a lot of his work in defence, a lot of his support play. Because, gosh, how many tries he scored? Like, sure, he's got his the line that he runs that was originally off Sean Johnson. Now it's off whoever throws in the ball, but also too, he's a great support runner. He'd scored tries off bombs against Manly and the Tigers back in 22. Basically was hanging down the wing against Manly and flew away there last year. He's just missed everywhere and exploded. But prior to that, he was providing a lot to the team too, even if the layman, including myself, wasn't quite seeing it, going, gee, this guy's not offering much. He hasn't done anything in a few years, and then boom. So hopefully he keeps it up. I think he's one of the form second rowers in the competition. Probably could have been a shout for Dalian second row of the year. Shame he can't play for New Zealand. I think it's great that he's having a full off season. Shame that for big game experience, he's just missing out on that opportunity. That's back to my comment at the start. Move the internationals back into the middle of the season, please. Maybe bugger off Origin too, but that's just me. But
in defence as well, he's huge. Very much.
His hits that he puts on, he kills people.
Yeah, so. and covers gaps like nobody's business. He's so brilliant. And I tell you what, when something goes wrong, that filthy look he shoots, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that. He is all business. He's serious and not happy when something goes wrong.
Right. And looking back at I just foolishly watched the Panthers prelim first half, at least before the last episode I was on 3 weeks ago. And I remember at the ground going, gee, Nikora is quiet tonight. He put a hit on, I think it was Liam Martin and Isaiah Yeo, forcing errors out of both of them. He was covering on the inside. Anytime that we basically were starting to break down defence, he was there getting up. I think he missed a tackle, came back and brought someone down. He's just missed it everywhere. And that was a quiet game from him, I suppose, with the ball. Without the ball, he was just still in the wet, still under the pump, probably broken at the end of a long season, still achieving and still killing people. So.
And as you mentioned, a surprising turn of pace as well. When he sneaks around the outside, he's got it in spades and can get a little sneaky try assist of his own by getting a good ball out.
Yes.
We do have a left field option, as he calls it, from Williams 2.0. How about Nickera to 13 if Cameron McInnes leaves?
It's interesting. You lose his line running, and how much of that impact, even if he doesn't get the ball, does that, I suppose, put the opposition defence in two minds? But at the same time, if he's 13 and free running, maybe worth a go, and you have Talakai there. So if he's replaced by Talakai, and Talakai's got the gas to do 80 minutes in second row, we did see his body shape change to be a middle, so that caused him, I think it was the game maybe against the Dolphins. He was out on his feet completely right in front of us with about 15, 20 to go, and he couldn't be replaced because he was there to play 80 minutes. If Talakai is able to, best of both worlds, play middle and second row for called upon, and you have Nicker in the middle, it could be worth a shout.
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit of a waste having Nickera move in to lock. I think...
Yeah, he's not a guy for your hard runs. And that's the
Exactly.
the conundrum with Lock, because back when we won the comp 2013, you had your third prop there, Gallen and the like. Then we've gone back through the kind of back into the 90s with your, I don't like him, but Victor Radley or Cam Murray or whatever, somebody's kind of ball playing, kind of back where your Tarira Nickhouse and your Nick Grahams, if you're going to draw a parallel there. I don't know if Nicker is either of those. Hitman in defence, sure. Maybe a good run, but what do you lose in moving him into the middle?
I kind of picture that being no, it's not the same in terms of positional switch, but in terms of the way a player is used. When Tupu came to the Sharks from the Roosters, he was this great ball playing, hole running weapon, and we just turned him into a tackling machine and a bunch of hit ups straight up the guts. And
Anthony Tupou back in 2009. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's what I would imagine would happen to Nicker if we tried to move him into lock. I'd rather see maybe Talakai move into lock if he's required to fill that spot, because we know he can be a bull with a ball, and also has the silky hands that could be used for playmaking opportunities.
This year proved that Nickera could be, potentially, this is not crazy talk, could be one of the best second rows, if not the best second row in the game. You move into lock, I don't think you'll be the best lock in the game.
Yeah, agreed. So then I think we're all on the same page there. If you got to sign someone, he's the first person you sign, and you work your way back from there. Don't let it get to your head, Nickera. Still sign for the right price for the Sharkies. Look after yourself, of course. We want you to do well, but stick around, mate, and keep the team around you that can help us win a premiership. But you are very important to us. Now, this is the snapshot of the off-contract status there, the list of all the players that we went through. Interestingly, this is not the first time we did this. We discussed this sort of halfway through the season, assuming that some people who were off contract would like to know their future before it got to the end of the season. And additionally, players that were performing well, we wanted to make sure they were locked up long before November 1st. But here we are, 2 weeks from November 1st, and this is what's changed. Not a lot. We have re-signed Hiroti. We've lost Hunt. We've lost Williams. And we'll put a little bit of an amber light on Trindall and Mulitalo because they've said that they're going to test the market come November 1st. The rest hasn't changed. So I'm going to put that down to there's been a lot of discussions behind the scenes where the club has sort of said we're all heading in the right direction. Let's put this sort of talk on hold until the business end is over, and then we can get things sorted. I'd like to think that's what's happening. What's your take on this?
Well, we're only 3 weeks and 3 days. I think it's 3 weeks and 3 days post our season finishing. I think some of these things would have been sorted if we, heaven forbid, bowed out earlier. So, yes, people want to shore up their futures. Yes, some players go, look, I'll wait till the 1st of November. They'll have a chance. But a lot of players too will probably turn around and go, the club would probably say, we don't want this to be a distraction during the final series. Let's park it. A lot of players had talked about parking things linked to Pua in his interview had said, look, we've parked it. Trindall as well said, look, we've chatted about things, but we've parked it. So I think similar to the old anti-tampering 1 July back, in the day, which clearly was a joke. I wonder how much of a joke this 1st November 2 is. They wait and test the market, how much other chats are happening covertly before the 1st of November, and we go from there. So I think it's not unexpected, but yeah, there'll be a lot of stuff starting to probably start a week or two ago. This is pure speculation for myself, and we'll be ramping up into the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll start to see some firm responses and results with a lot of these things, a lot of these players.
I suppose it is worth mentioning that there has been a tweak to the rules and regulations in that the club now has a right of reply.
Yeah.
So if anyone come November 1st does get an offer that they are interested in, they have to let the club know that they're considering it, and we can try to match that or better it, as the case may be. So it's not a scenario where we would wake up and lose a player that is still contracted. It's just not the same. It doesn't apply to the people that are off contract now, but come November 1st, those guys, we would have a scenario of the right of reply, which means you'd like to think if it's someone we want to keep, we would be doing what we can to keep them instead of, being blown out of the water and just can't do it, right?
Hopefully it's all for the right price. Hopefully, I mean, Nikora, I believe, re-signed with us over the Tigers a few years ago because he wanted to stay with the team. We spoke about Ronaldo wanting to keep the team together, now testing the market. I can see why. Hopefully some team Sharks focused decisions are made. It seems like they're all a happy bunch down there. They keep telling us that they are, but I genuinely think they are. So we will see a few go, unfortunately, but hopefully Nikora, Trindall, let's say, and are both signed for the right price, and we'll follow down from there.
Absolutely. SJD kicks in and he says he believes that Talakai to 13 is a lot better.
Agree.
That's in relation to the Nikora discussion. Well, anything else from you, Williams, that you would like to add to the discussion for this talk?
Nothing player-wise. I think thank you for your visuals and your research. I was just very much here for the ride and some not so witty banter, but and a few segues. But thank you for everything you did putting together tonight. I suppose we'll strap in and enjoy the next few weeks. But just from me, I think I mentioned Plum before, so check it out. It's on ABC iView if you're interested in Sharks fan, Brendan Cowell and others, their work based on a book that he wrote based on a Cronulla Sharks player. So one of the first and only times I think I've seen Cronulla Sharks in some kind of pop culture reference. What's the other stuff? Obviously, I mentioned the Alan Wilson interview before, and there's a bit of stuff getting around. If you are looking for an off-season fix, there's still a bit of media attention or chatting about football. So enjoy your break too. I've been enjoying not being in so much in the day-to-day grind. This is a bit of a break from talking about Sharks, a bit of a break from not talking about Sharks at the moment, the reverse of the regular season. So, thanks for putting all those links to the Discord stuff up. I'll throw back to you, Franko, to introduce those.
Yeah, no problem. So, we've got the Discord channel that we're kind of hijacking a little bit. A friend has put that together, dedicated to the Cronulla Sharks. We're in there. A bunch of other people are in there. Good alternative spot to chat about your favorite club and players, similar to you would on any forum or Facebook, social media. Get in there, have a bit of a yarn, have a laugh. Happy to see you there. I guess we will be back next Tuesday. We're continuing our regular Tuesday shows throughout the off season. We might have a little bit of a break over Christmas and New Year, but ultimately we will be running through all the way till round 1 and beyond. I think that everyone will be happy to see you guys if you want to hang around and listen. But if not, we understand that it is the off season. There's other things that people like to do, maybe get away from it. But if you're finding a bit of free time and you're getting that itch to want to dive back into the Sharkies and you haven't been watching regularly, you'll have some back catalogue to catch up on your drives into the office or the train trip or Sunday afternoon while you're flicking through the paper. I I'd like to say thank you very much for hanging with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you've missed the show live, drop some comments down below. Let us know your thoughts on your preferred signing, what you think should happen, if there's any concerns. But ultimately, up Cronulla.
One more thing from me. I think Bodo mentioned last week that the displayware winner for best comment of the year would be announced this week. Boldo apologises, threw us under the bus. He hadn't sorted that out yet, so that'll probably be in the coming weeks. And I don't know what we're doing next week, but we're looking at starting to do season reviews, player reviews, and the like. If you want anything particular covered, jump in, let us know. But I think we're going to start looking at season and player reviews now that about a month or so has passed, and we can start to look a bit more objectively into things. So, yeah, as always, like and subscribe. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'd probably be remiss that if we didn't talk about the episode last week, which was the interview with Francis, who was an ex-Sharks physio. A lot of tales to tell there. So maybe give that one a listen if you missed it. All that said and done, thanks very much once again, Williams. Thanks everyone else for hanging with us. It's been a real blast. Bit scary, some of these contract talks, but hopefully there's bright spots in the future.
Thanks, mate. Up.
No worries. Take care. Up.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.